Okay, guys, so one other thing that we want to talk about now that we've signed up some closings for you on some properties, since you're in a corporation together and you're involved in this venture of buying real estate, we want to make sure that in some of the deals where you're all sitting in the same corporation, that we have a shareholders agreement for you, because that'll be your like legal agreement that will bind you to all your terms, how you're going to operate with one another, and so forth. And then in some of the other transactions where you're not all in the same corporations, but you have your independent corps for the venture, we have to tie that together with a joint venture agreement. So the documents have different names: shareholder agreement if you're in the same corp altogether, okay, or joint venture agreement if you're independently partners in the deal, but you're independent. You're not all sitting in the same corp,
Right.
but you're venturing together. So that's why the one's a joint venture, the other one's the shareholders agreement. So,
Gotcha.
a deal that, for example, where you're all in corporation A as shareholders, which are the owners of the corp, that will have a shareholders agreement, which will say all of the key things about, what are you doing, Ken? What's Sarah doing? What's Lee doing? What are the capital investment requirements of each of you and any other owners that are involved in the real estate venture? What are exit strategies? Because obviously you guys like each other right now and everything's great, everything's exciting, everything's going smooth. But we want to make sure we know predetermined exit strategies, like how we're going to value somebody being bought out or somebody buying everybody out. How are we going to deal with the fact that none of you like each other possibly down the road? Those are really important factors to have in the shareholders agreement. And all of those terms I just talked about would also be the same key terms you'd have in a joint venture agreement. The difference is, unlike company A, where you're all shareholders, so we use a shareholders agreement, in deal B, where you have a company, you have a company, and you have a company, but you're all doing it together, you're all doing the venture together, we have to use a joint venture agreement because we have to tie you guys all together as partners, but you're in separate corps. So the agreements can say all the same things, more or less. They'll have all the same key terms, but because in one real estate venture, you guys are all together in the same corp as shareholders, that's a shareholders agreement. And then whereas most of your other ones where you're all partners together in the same venture, but you're separated by your own corps, we need to use a joint venture agreement to tie in, again, what are each of you doing, who's investing what money, who has what roles and responsibilities, and what are our exit strategies if people don't like each other anymore.
Yeah.
What if like somebody dies or passes away too, right? Like that's probably it.
That'll be in both the documents as well. So same thing, it'll say how are we going to value and how do you want the shares to be dealt with. You don't have to do it this way, but kind of the typical precedent is, let's say Lee passed, since Lee was moving to the islands, the plane went down or something, right? So Lee's plane goes down, he's passed away.
Yeah.
Usually the shareholders agreement or the joint venture agreement will say this is how we value the shares. So the valuation has been done, it's been completed by the accountants. And so now what happens is Lee's shares essentially are bought out by the corp or the partners, and they basically, the money flows to his estate, so his wife and children, but you guys get to keep his ownership.
Yeah.
If that's kind of the precedent thing, because normally the surviving owners don't want to be stuck doing business with his wife or children, likely, right? But there are cases where we do have some clients where that's not the case, and you want to still be doing business with Lee's wife, for example, or maybe the deal with you guys is, no, we want our wife or our significant other or whoever our beneficiaries of our estate are, we want them to stay in this investment because we want this to be a legacy. We want this to keep going because it's more valuable to stay in it than to be bought out of it. So those are your two most common options.